Welcome back to DAGryffyn Hobby. My name's Dave. Let's take a look at my MPC era 8770 EMD NW2 switcher. This is an MPC era 8770 Electromotive Division NW2 switcher. This is special to me because this belonged to my uncle, whose layout I spent many hours as a kid just standing in awe of. So this is one of those pieces I love having in my collection. And I've probably serviced it, but it's been so long I need to get in there and do it again because I haven't been using it. The shell has one tab on the back and one screw on the front. I haven't even put an LED light in this yet. And it looks like this has no lights. But look at that. It does have a horn. I'm not going to worry about the horn for now because really I just want to see if I can get it to run a little bit better. To remove the motor, you remove these clips and springs, and there should be a washer under that. I find, at least for me, it works pretty well to lightly squeeze the spring and then rock it back and forth side to side until it slides up off the post. There we go. It's important to note this ground right here needs to be resecured or it won't work. Brushes are fairly new, or at least not very worn. The great thing about when the motor comes apart like this is it just makes it a lot easier to clean. Okay, here's a washer that I forgot about. Already looks a lot better. There are all sorts of different methods and tools to use. I like to stay with what's basic and what most people will have on hand, because a lot of the stuff you can get done with just a couple of screwdrivers and a pair of tweezers or something, so no need to complicate things. I'd say that's looking pretty good. I'm kind of impressed. For just some contact cleaner and a paper towel, it's one of the nicer ones I've seen recently. Okay, this I wish I could get apart easily, but I cannot. A lot of times these gears, while dirty, don't necessarily present an issue, but what I have found many times is that a hard piece of plastic or other debris is stuck in a couple of the gears, and that will cause a binding when the engine's running. So I do really like to get in there and give a light scrape to every tooth, even though it's kind of boring and monotonous. It doesn't take that long, and it's worth doing. I should have done this first and desolder that point, because if you keep bending this wire back and forth, it's going to break, and probably somewhere in a really inconvenient spot. So I figured it's just safer just to desolder it. It only takes a moment and saves a lot of frustration. This would explain why the coupler won't recenter itself. One side's broken off. Can't forget to clean the inside of the brush plate. I usually just wipe it down and then try to clean the inside of where the brushes sit. The wires look okay. Something to look for is corrosion or discoloration on the wires where they touch the plates there. A lot of times they'll be a little green or a little rusty. And if they look like that, then you want to replace them or just replace the whole set of fingers. The drum's a little stiff. I don't recommend putting a lot, but sometimes when I have a stiff drum, put just a drop of oil on each side where the drum pivots. You don't want a lot of oil on your drum. Spray some in there and then try to clean off the surface of the drum. You want to pay special attention to these contact points and try to get those nice and clean. You want to make sure the screw for your E-unit is nice and tight and that the unit doesn't move around, because that's how it grounds, and if it doesn't ground properly, it's not going to work properly. The wire from the center rail pickup comes up to this point right here, and that's where the power to the E-unit is soldered in. The rest of these points have to do with the relay for the horn. It does look like there's a ball bearing in there in the bottom. I'm going to put a little oil in there. So first we have to put the power truck in place, feeding the coupler through the front, and the tabs up through the frame. I put some grease down on the gear, put the armature in place, put the brushes in and make sure they move freely. Now if that doesn't work for you, you can put the brush plate back on and then pick these springs up out of the way and put the brush in that way. Secure the brush plate and don't forget to reconnect to this ground. You want to make sure these two screws are nice and tight, but don't over tighten them. You don't want to crack the brush plate. And you can put a drop of oil on top of the armature shaft and then here into the sponge where it says oil, or the wick, or whatever you feel like calling it. The washer goes on, then the spring, and then this, whatever you call it, washer, clip, whatever it is. Now you don't want them to be too loose that the motor is flopping around, but you also don't want them so tight that it can't pivot back and forth a little bit. When going forward, the movement of the gears pulls the armature down. When it goes backwards, the gear direction forces the armature up. And when that happens, you can see how high up it comes. And it's harder to turn. It turns fine forward, but turning backward, it gets kind of stuck. But if you push this down a little bit and hold it down, then it spins easy. The armature is coming too far up when going backwards. To keep that from being an issue, maybe another of those small washers on the top of the armature would allow it to stay further down. I wonder if I have any small washers that would fit there. There's one way to find out. Let's give it a try. I have small rubber O-rings. I don't think it's a great idea, but it's an idea, and it's a part, because I don't have any of these little washers that I know of. So I'm going to put that little rubber O-ring on there, and then the washer. Maybe it's too much. Maybe it's going to melt all over the thing. I have no idea. But I think it's worth a try. And since I had to take the brush plate off again, I'll show the other way to put the brushes in. Whether or not it turns out to be a good idea long term, at the moment, it seems to be working. Because I can roll the engine forward and back, and the armature is not going up so high that it's causing an issue. Of course, the brushes aren't in yet, so I don't know if that's making a difference. So let's put them in there and check it out. I don't really like putting the brushes in through the top because I feel like you're stressing out the spring by bending it backwards. But sometimes it's just the easier way to get it done. You pull the spring up and out, push the brush in, and let go of the spring, and there you go. Sometimes that's a lot easier than holding the thing upside down and trying to put it together, especially on this motor, because this armature kind of flops back and forth and is hard to line up. So this is probably the easier way to do it. Okay. Before, I wouldn't have been able to roll it backwards. So it's obviously moving a little bit better with the armature not coming up so high when it goes backwards. I was just thinking I didn't touch the rear truck, and these pickup rollers are not looking great. But I'll have to save that for another day. Right now, I just want to see if this runs better. And then at some point, I'd like to clean this thing up, put window glass in there, put LEDs in the headlight and the marker lights, because I do like this engine, especially since it did belong to my uncle. So I definitely want to keep it, and if I spruce it up a little bit, maybe I'll run it some more. Okay, let's check this out on the layout. I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time on DAGryffyn Hobby.